I'm an addict. My name's Ryan. So, it's going to be emotional just because, for those of you that haven't heard, my sponsor's moving down to North Carolina, and I'm super fucking proud of him. You know, he does what I think anybody that works he's doing what anybody that works a solid program would end up doing, and he's fucking reaching for the stars, man, and fulfilling all his dreams. Like, I get to watch him do that every day. I moved to the northern panhandle, Morgantown, to get clean, and was in an abnormal state, like the literature talks about, and felt completely fucked up. I'm sorry, but I cuss a lot. And where we're from, that's okay in an H&I meeting. Thank you very much. I'll just put that out there. Kinda. Now I'm getting weird looks. It's okay, I'm used to it. In any case, here's this really professional dude who I envy in a lot of ways. It's not great to be jealous of your sponsor, but I feel like it's happened to me a lot. But what I do with that is say, because he'll tell me, this is all possible for you too. And I'll say, yeah, then I need to put in some fucking work, I want to say there wasn't a lot of people that believed in me, throughout my life. And I lost some really important people along the way. And it just got harder and harder. My sponsor came along, and I was hard-headed as shit. I'm like, I ain't gonna work steps. This one's not for me. And I argued, man, and I got mad at him, and I was such a dickhead, and I still can be. And it's like, it's been 3 years, and I struggle against every bit of the program. But I've always been willing to take suggestions. From day one, he made me feel comfortable because he told me social acceptability don't equal recovery. I'm like, cool. I don't have to look like anybody else or act like anybody else. I could be me, which is fucking hard sometimes. And he told me to weave myself into the middle of the program, because the thread in the middle is harder to pull out. And just has passed on so much knowledge and wisdom, I'm just happy to be here to introduce him. I love the guy so much. If he didn't carry a hell of a message, I wouldn't be here. So just believe that. And, here's Anant.
I'm an addict named Anant. God, I love Ryan. I am very grateful to be clean and grateful to be here at Narcotics Anonymous meeting. I'm grateful for the convention committee for asking me to speak up here. My first convention was 6 years ago on this day. I had 85 days clean, and I was up at the dining hall, and they did the clean time countdown, and I got to be a part of that, and I thought it was so cool, hearing people talk about having years clean and decades clean and everything like that, and I got this feeling that I could possibly do that too. That gave me a lot of hope, and then afterwards, they had a speaker there, and that kind of blew my mind. I was like, holy crap, this person gets to go up here and speak in front of a bunch of people, and they're listening and paying attention for the most part, and I thought it'd be cool to do that one day. And despite, people telling me that I should turn in a service resume and me telling them I have to call my sponsors to make sure it's okay, whenever that news actually got to him, he said, what the hell's wrong with you? When NA tells you to do something, you should probably do it. So I put in my resume, and here I am. All right, that's out of the way. I've been an addict longer than I can probably remember. I definitely have been. My clean date is, February 1st, 2013. So I got 6 years, 3 months, and so I got 6 years, 3 months, and 17 days. But I didn't do that alone. I definitely did not. I have learned the longer I've been clean that there's a lot of shit out here that I cannot do by myself. Staying clean is definitely the first priority, but there's more things that I'm encountering in life, even to this day, that I don't know anything about, and I need you guys to help me with that. I was born, in Allentown, Pennsylvania, back in 1982, 36 years old. But my story starts before that, actually. I'm a child of immigrant parents. They came over here. My dad came over in '77, came here for school. He's from India, as is my mom. They came over here. He traded 85-degree weather for 3 feet of snow in Buffalo because he wanted to improve his life and quality of life and try something different. And I didn't hear about it until literally just 2 or 3 years ago that he struggled with depression a lot when he first moved here. Leaving his family entirely back there, everyone that he knew, the comfortable lifestyle that he had there, to go out on a limb and try something different. But he stuck with it. He adapted to the times. He went back and married my mom. And then they came over here in '81 and had me in '82. So born in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We moved shortly thereafter to Michigan. Had my sister. She's 4 years younger than me. And we grew up fighting quite a bit. But she currently is at home watching my dog and my cat, so I could be here and be a part of this. And I'm so fucking grateful for that. We had her in '86, and then we moved to Boston. And then I moved to Morgantown in 1990. And even though I am moving, like Ryan was talking about, Morgantown is my home. And I love Morgantown for everything it's done for me. So I grew up decent home, I didn't have anything bad going on. Mom and dad were okay. The typical little arguments and tiffs here and there, but nothing too out of proportion. For me, it was just focusing on school, school. My dad hammered that into my head. School is your way to do things. That's what you need to succeed in. That's how you achieve. That's how you, get things in your life. And there was a lot of pressure that came with that. I could be the kid that, there's a test given and like everyone in the class got like a 70 and I got a 96 and I came home and I was like, Dad, I got a 96. They all got a 70. He'd say, what happened to the other 4 points? So that's the kind of home that I grew up in. He wasn't, abusive, physically or anything of that sort, or emotionally. But even to this day, if he ever raises his voice and says my name in the same sentence, I physically start shaking. But he hasn't had to do that in over 6 years, and that's pretty freaking cool. So it was school to start off with, school and sports. Those were the two big things. I had extracurricular activities, which is a normal lifestyle, My sister, the same thing as well. Didn't start using until later on in life. I'm a late bloomer, if you want to call it that. The first time that I used was it was freshman or senior year of high school, first semester. I'd already applied to school. I did well in school. I really did, thanks to my dad and a little bit of inner drive. But we were at my buddies had gone to a party the weekend before in Morgantown, in Sunnyside. If those of you are from Morgantown or been to Morgantown, this is Sunnyside. Back before they turned it all into student housing, there was party houses and frat houses and everything like that. So I went to my first, party there. They had, a keg of some stuff, and I proceeded to go over there and start, drinking. That was the first drug for me. So I started drinking, and I wasn't doing okay with that. And then they bring out this vat of stuff, and I didn't know what it was. It looked like Hawaiian Punch. It had some fruit in there, so it wasn't as bitter, and I proceeded to drink a lot of that. And then one of our friends who was a year older than us came up to us and said, "Hey, are you guys okay?" And I said, "Why? I feel great." And she's like, "Well, there's, Everclear and some grain alcohol in there." And I said, "I don't know what that is." And all I knew is I was feeling good and I didn't have to care about anything. So I proceeded to like drink a little bit more, and then before you know it, I'm repainting Grant Street. You know. Now the normal person, I say normal, would do that and then think like maybe I probably shouldn't do that, you know, for like a while. But the addict in me went and did that the next night. I loved it. I loved that feeling. I loved not having to worry about anything. All the stress that I was dealing with in terms of getting into college and everything like that, I didn't have to think about that just for that time that I was there. You know, the consequences, a little bit of puke, whatever, that wasn't a big deal. Things hadn't gotten super bad. So that's what I started to do for a while there. I got into college, went to a pretty good school. My using went with me. You know, I remember thinking like when I was getting into college, like, you know, I'm doing some drinking and some partying here. I'm definitely using here, but when I get off to college, I got to put all that stuff away. You know, like I got to like, it's college. You know, you're supposed to like study. You know, this is your way to get forward in life. You have to study when you're in college, right? And that was the thinking when I got there. But the very first day that I was in college, I met this buddy of mine from Miami, and he had managed to smuggle some stuff up on the plane with him, and we became best of friends. Best of friends. Best of friends. My first semester at college was not a pleasant one in the sense that I was not at class the great majority of the time. I was sitting in our dorm rooms getting high and playing Diablo 2. Yeah, right. And you know, there's the addict in like two senses, because like I can't, you know, I'm using, that's what I do, it's my nature. But add on top of that, like I found this like computer game that was really cool, and like maybe it could have been an outlet that would have been just healthy to play a little bit, but I'm an addict, so like I ran with it. Had like a level 93 barbarian. I thought I was the coolest thing in the world. All the while, like I'm not going to class at all. You know, my professors are wondering if he even exists, like, you know, what's going on here. So after that first semester, I got home, it was Christmas break, you know, and my parents demanded that they see my report card, you know, or my transcript from the first semester, because they paid pretty good money for me to go to school. It definitely wasn't cheap. So I showed them that, and they got pissed. You know, my dad raised his voice, you know. My mom just, you know, your mom, whenever she's mad at you and like you want her to just go off, and instead she does one of these like, I got that. And, you know, for me, that was like, all right, that's sign. Like, I need to do something different, you know. So I went back to college that semester, and I vowed to my parents that I would do better. And I did. You know, I was able to study and hit the books better than I was the first semester. You know, I put down the video game, and I was studying. But as is the nature of this disease, you know, the using got a little bit more and more. You know, I started venturing into other things, you know. It wasn't just, you know, sitting around in the dorm room. It was trying other stuff, you know, and seeing what that was like, you know. And I'll tell you, you know, I never met a drug that I didn't like. You know, I liked them all. Some a little bit more than the others, but, you know, I wouldn't pass anything down. So college turned out to be, you know, an experience, because it was the first time for me getting out of my house, being away from my family, and being able to do what I wanted to, or I thought that I wanted to and do, but it didn't turn out to be the case. I still had to answer to my parents. They're paying for my education. I still had to try to get decent grades, which I managed to do, actually, but my using just got worse and worse. Graduate college in 2004, and I don't know what the hell I want to do with myself. You know, all the people that were in my class they've got jobs lined up with like the World Bank, law firms, whatever, this and that. I'd putzed around in college for a good 4 years, and I got myself a good degree, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you want to do? To be honest with you, I just wanted to keep getting high. Like, that's all I wanted to do. You know, when I'm high, I don't have to worry about things. I can push things off. I can procrastinate. You know, I don't have to answer to people. I'm very much the addict that like will deal with the shit after the fact. You know, it's like I'll do the stuff. Maybe I'll get in trouble, but I'll deal with the consequences later. You don't need to worry about that now. And I pushed that off for 4 years. So here I am with a college degree, and I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do, you know. Luckily, I had a buddy of mine that was working in a law firm in D.C., and, you know, I talked to him about it, so I started working for a law firm in D.C. And it was good money, but that opened me up to other drugs that people who are in the legal field sometimes use, and that got out of hand, you know. Started showing up to work with red eyes, sniffling all the time, you know, and they would ask me, like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong with you? Are you sick? And I'd say, yeah, that's it, yep. For weeks on end, you know. And it got to a point where it got out of hand. You know, I could sense and I could tell that they were about to fire me, but I didn't want that. So what did I choose to do instead? On a Sunday night, it was in December, I just packed up all my stuff and drove back to my parents' house in Morgantown. And I show up there at about 10:30 at night, knocking on their door, and my mom says, "What the hell are you doing here? Like, is everything okay? What's going on?" I was like, "Yeah, Mom, you know, I don't know if I want to do that whole, like, you know, legal profession thing. You know, it's just not like the right fit for me." And she says, "Everything's okay there?" I was like, yeah, you know, I just don't know if it's the right fit for me. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll probably hang out for a little bit. And she says, "The hell you'll do that? You know, we just spent like a good bit of money on you going to college. Do something with yourself. Do something with your life." And at this point, like, I'm back at home in Morgantown, and all my buddies that I'd grown up with, they'd gone to WVU, and they were still in town. So, like, we rounded up the troops and had, like, a mini reunion at the local bars, and, like, that one night thing turned into an every night thing, and I was there all the time and hanging out with the wrong people, and my life got unmanageable very quickly. It was about January of 2005, and, you know, my cousin in Australia was getting married. And my dad was working at that point, still is, my mom as well. And my sister, she was in college. She'd gone off to college. So they wanted someone to go on behalf of the family, to go there and, like, represent the family for the wedding and everything of that sort. So my mom asked me, she said, "Hey, do you want to go to Australia, go for a wedding? Your cousin's getting married." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Free trip, yes, please." And I signed up for it, and I ended up going away. And I remember being on the plane, or right as I'm about to get on the plane, and I said, "You know what? This is the ticket. I'm gonna go away. I won't know where the drugs are. I won't know who to get them from. I won't know where to go. I'm moving away with family. I'm not gonna show my ass. You know, I'm just gonna be a good person. I won't be having this problem anymore." What do I do when I get on the plane? 4 little mini bottles of wine. Liquor galore. I was loaded on the way there. It was a 24-hour plane ride. I started going into detox a little bit, but I just kept drinking because, you know, that was my way of, like, dealing with it, you know. So I get to Australia a day later, and I am, like, 3 sheets to the wind, wasted at the airport getting off the plane. My uncle comes to pick me up from the airport, and he said, "Haven't seen you in 10 years. That's what you look like now?" And I said, "Oh, no, it's jet lag. Like, I'll be good." So I got there, I was hungover, I slept, and I actually did have a little bit of jet lag. But I woke up and got to meet, my cousin, the rest of the people she hung out with, and I got to spend some good time there. Within 2 days, though, I found who was going to be my best friend while I was in Australia. He wanted to party just like I did, as frequently as I did, if not more. And it was just a matter of time before, my disease resurfaced there. I spent a year abroad in Australia. I went to Malaysia and Singapore as well. It was a really, really cool experience. It really was. I like traveling a lot. But, when I'm using, the traveling's not as much fun. I've missed a couple of flights in my time. I've definitely thrown up in 3 bathrooms in Singapore. And, it can make traveling a little bit more difficult. But I was grateful for the experience. So, I spent a year abroad, started law school actually there. I was a semester into it, and then my grandma wasn't doing well. So I moved back to Morgantown. So here I am back in Morgantown for the 3rd time. And my buddies are still in Morgantown. They haven't gone anywhere. And I came home, and what do? First thing I know is give them a call and go hit up the bars. You know, that's where I felt most comfortable, you know, in the bar scene, you know, with people that were just like me, you know, using, not having to care about anything. That was home for me. That's where I enjoyed being. After about a month or so of sleeping on my parents' couch, my dad told me to get a job or get the hell out of the house. So what do? I started working at Teletech. For those of you that are from Morgantown, that's a rite of passage. Teletech, it's like customer service. I was working for a big bank doing customer service, checking and savings, and I get it, like the Indian guy working in customer service. So, I worked there for 2.5 years, and before I got in there, or I got in there just before they started drug testing people, so I made it like by the skin of my teeth. You know, I managed to get in there, and things went well. I excelled in that job. It was pretty simple. You know, I moved up through the ranks and everything of that sort. I became a unit manager within time, but that's when I started to discover other drugs that you know, I hadn't done before. You know, and these things, you know, made my life really unmanageable, you know. Things that were normally prescribed to people that I was abusing, you know, made my life pretty unmanageable. I was missing work left and right. I got my first DUI August of 2007 as a result of mixing things, you know, and I got to spend some time in jail as a result of that. You know, and I remember when it happened, my dad was in San Francisco on travel, and you know, I got the DUI, and I was in jail, and I called my mom, and you know, she came and got me, bailed me out and everything. And then on the way back home from Doddridge, I had the privilege of calling my dad, who was in San Francisco, to tell him what was going on. He was there for like a week-long seminar. Needless to say, that got cut short, and he flew back home and laid into me pretty good. You know, simply like, we've done all this for you. We've spent all this time and effort on you and who you are as a person. We've done so much for you, and this is how you repay us. You know, your name's now in the paper. There's the family there. Now people are going to look at us differently. Now people know. You know, and they were disappointed in me. You know, and I remember telling my dad, like, I'm so sorry. You know, I won't do it again. You know, things will be different. You'll see. Things that I said pretty regularly through my using, but that was the first time I said that. So I get my DUI, and I've now moved on to other drugs. And now the ways and means to get more definitely surfaced. You know, I learned at some point that, you know, if I bought one of something and it cost me $20, if you buy two of something and it costs you $30, if I get someone else's money and add in my money, I'm paying less. And before you know it, I started to do that quite a bit. And then I moved into middlemaning, if you want to call it that, and then selling, you know. All the while, like, you know, dressing, you know, professionally. Ryan was talking about me dressing professionally. Those of you that are from Morgantown, I come into meetings wearing a shirt and tie and, you know, pants, because that's what I wear to work. Funny thing, I used to wear that when I was getting high, too. Because I thought to myself, like, you know, if I dress like this, you know, and I have a briefcase, I had a briefcase, then, like, you know, the cops and law enforcement wouldn't ever realize that I was a drug dealer. I was an Indian guy selling heroin in Morgantown, West Virginia. I stood out like a sore thumb. So, I get my first possession charge, you know, and I remember them asking me, like, you know, do you have a problem? Are you addicted to these drugs? And I told him like, no, not at all. I don't have a problem, nothing of the sort. I'm fine. I'm just selling them. That's all I'm doing. And then at that point, like they asked me some further questions, which I didn't answer because I had a lawyer and I knew what to do. But I've got a couple of possession charges on my record. I've got various other charges, everything of that sort. Life got pretty chaotic and out of hand. During one of those charges, they told me I needed to go to day report, and they told me I needed to attend meetings. So, me being the smart person that I thought I was, I had to write some papers and do this and that. I wrote the papers, that's fine. They told me to go to meetings, though, and I was like, meetings, that's lame. I'm not going to meetings. But they were like, no, you need to go to meetings. They told me I needed to go to 3 meetings. So what do? I went to 1 meeting, and it was the other fellowship, and I took notes, and I made it look like I went to 3 meetings. And they were like, oh, well, he's fixed. Sweet. Here's your car back, sir. Here's your driver's license. Feel free to go down the road and do what you do. So that was my first time going to a meeting of any sort. One thing that some person said there that actually has stuck with me to this day, it's that reference to a pickle. Once a cucumber becomes a pickle, it can never go back to being a cucumber. That really stuck with me for some reason, and I don't find out until years later why, but I just always thought that was kind of cool, So 2 years later, let's fast forward to 2010. I have at this point racked up some charges, and I'm sitting there in front of the judge after another possession charge. And I've known this judge. I've known her kids since I was 8 years old. They grew up with me, everything of that sort. And I've got my mom sobbing in the back of the courtroom. I am not going to, they wanted me to go to day report. I went to day report. They wanted me to get randomly drug tested, and I did that stuff. I was getting high still. I thought that if I got high, if I went to, go checked in first thing Friday morning and then didn't go back in until late Monday, I could probably get high and they would never find out. And that worked once. I'll never forget it. My day report officer, Ross, one time I went in there and he asked me if I was going to, test positive for anything. And I said, no, I've been good, dude. And I, did the sample and he goes, holy shit. And I said, what? And he showed me the cup. I hit every single one of those panel things. And I said, does that mean I get a free one? He goes, no, dude. You need help. Nah, no, not me. I'm good. What are you talking about, Ross? I've got a little bit of a problem. I'll get over it. So I'm sitting there in court, and my mom's in the back of the court, and she's sobbing her eyes out. And this judge is telling me, look, I know you, Anant. I know your family. I know where you've came from. I know how intelligent you are. You're an amazing person. But if you don't get this under control, you're going to either end up dead or back here, or if you're lucky, in jail. You need to go to treatment. You need help. And I told her, tears coming out of my eyes that I managed to pull out from somewhere. And I told her, yeah, I'll do that. I absolutely will. But what do I do the moment I leave the courtroom? I went back out and got high, because I didn't have to answer to anybody. I'm back. I'm doing good. So not more than 2 months later, it was New Year's Eve 2012, going into 13. I had just visited my drug dealer's house. I had a bunch of drugs on me. I was going to go meet someone at the Shop and Save up at the Glenmark Center to go off some drugs. My drug dealer wanted some Frank's Red Hot. When your drug dealer asks for something, you get it for him, right? We've all been there. So I go up and meet the person that I wanted to, or I needed to, up there in the parking lot. And then I go into Shop and Save to go get these 2 bottles of Frank's Red Hot. And now, bear in mind that, I am always got drugs on me. I'm the addict that's always breaking the law, always have drugs on me. And whenever I mix substances, other characteristics come out of me that don't come out otherwise. I was a kleptomaniac. I like to steal stuff. I did. I think it was the rush of stealing things, getting away with it. So I go and meet this person and off a bunch of drugs, so I have a bunch of money in my pocket. I walk into Shop and Save to go ahead and get these 2 bottles of Frank's Red Hot. So I get them. And, as I'm walking out of the aisle, I see this bearded guy over off in the corner, and he's looking at something, whatever. And I'm turning around, walking down the aisle, and I see this shiny thing out of the corner of my eye. And I'm like, what is that? And I look at it. It's a Steelers magnet. I'm like, oh, my God, that thing's amazing. I need to have that. I need that. That was meant for me. I need this. So I do one of those, like, walk over there casually, take it, put it in my pocket, all nonchalant, go through self-checkout because that's what we do. And so I'm up there, I'm scanning the 2 bottles of Frank's Red Hot, I'm putting the cash in the machine, and I'm going to walk out the door, and that bearded gentleman grabs me by the back, and he says, come with me. So I go upstairs, and he says, sit down. And like at this point, I'm in sheer panic, because I'm like, oh shit, they realized what I had done. What's happening? So I sit down. He said, empty your pockets. So I took my keys out, and I put them on the table. He said, no, really, empty your pockets. So I take my cell phone out and put it on the table. And he says, I'm not joking, empty your pockets. So at that point, I pulled out the Steelers magnet, put it on the table. He said, do you have anything else? And at that point, for some reason or the other, I decided to go ahead and empty my pockets. And I had drugs on me, paraphernalia, everything of that sort. And I started to get really apologetic, and I started to manufacture tears again. And I said, I'm so sorry. Please don't. Please, please, please don't. I'll do whatever. I'll pay for it. I'll give you more. Please don't. He said, stay right there. He went in and called the sheriff's department. And they came by, picked me up, took me downtown, booked me, and then I was off to Doddridge. So I got to Doddridge about 3:30 on New Year's Eve, going into 2013, and I was there until the following day. So I got to bring in the New Year's in jail, and I was detoxing too. That was not fun. As opposed to previous times when I was there, for some reason, like I just felt it. You get that feeling where it's like, it's not fun anymore. It's not what it used to be. There's consequences. It's gotten worse. Who am I? Where did I lose myself? How far down this rabbit hole did I end up actually going? And I was there, and while I was there, I made a phone call, and I called my mom, and I told her I was in jail yet again. And she called one of the local judges that we knew, and somehow on New Year's Day, he managed to sign something for me to get out a little bit earlier. So they came and got me at like 9:30 at night on New Year's Day from Doddridge. And for those of you that have been to Doddridge or live in Morgantown, it's a good hour or so to get back to 50 to 79, and then another half an hour to 45 minutes to get back up to Morgantown. So, I was expecting, I go to open the door to get in my parents' car. I'm in the back seat. My parents are up front. There's no music on, nothing of that sort. And I'm expecting them to just lay into me, just to go off. But instead, I get an hour, hour and a half, hour 45 minutes of complete and dead silence. And I could just feel it. I could feel that guilt, that shame, that remorse. I could feel the disappointment. It was just like, it hurt. It was painful. I get home, and my mom she just starts breaking down. My dad too, who I've never seen cry before, at this point, he says, "What are we gonna do with you? What are we gonna do with you?" And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I know I didn't want to do this anymore, because that unmanageability that it talks about, the outward stuff, had been very apparent. But now that inward stuff was starting to surface, and it was matching the stuff on the outside, and it was getting to be too much. The next day, I told my mom that I was actually going to go to treatment, try something different. I'd never been to treatment before. I didn't know what it was like, but I knew that I needed some sort of help. add on top of that, part of it in the back of my head was thinking like, I really enjoy the money that I'm getting from selling drugs. Maybe I'll stop using, but I don't really want to stop selling the drugs. Because like I've been unemployed for like 4 years and I don't have to report this income that I'm getting, to the government, and I don't have to pay taxes, and it's provided a decent lifestyle for me. So I went in there with the mindset that like I would get ahead of these charges before the courts got to me. And also the thinking that like I would be there and like, get the courts off my back, but I didn't want to stop selling. Because I was addicted to the lifestyle very much, as much as I was the using. That rush of breaking the law, the rituals involved with it, meeting people in the parking lot, everything of that sort. I used to pride myself on being like a great drug dealer. I used to refer to them as my clients. What a screwed up perspective that I had, but that's the person that I was, and I did have a briefcase and I used to use it. So, So I ended up going to treatment. I went to treatment. My first day was February 1st, 2013, and that's the last day. That's my clean date. I got there, and they started going through my stuff, and luckily I didn't bring anything with me. But bear in mind, like I got loaded the night before. Absolutely. What do we do before we're gonna go get clean? Let's get really messed up. So I'm like drooling all over myself. My dad's giving me a ride to treatment. I'm just wasted, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like, what has happened here? So I'm drooling all over myself. I get to treatment. Like, I need help getting in the door, and my mom's like, can you fix this? And they're like, Thank God for the tech there. He was like, we've seen worse. And she was like, oh, okay. There's hope. So, I get there and I'm there in a setting that, is supposed to be helpful with, going through detox and this and that. There were people there that, were just like us, that were there to help talk to me and everything like that. But for the first 2 weeks or so, it was just straight agony and pain. And I do H&I pretty regularly for two reasons. One, because that's the first setting that I heard about the message of Narcotics Anonymous, and two, it reminds me of where the fuck I came from, and those are two things I need to remember, So while I was there, the first 2 weeks were miserable. I'm restless nights, you're not able to eat anything, everything's coming out of every which hole that I have, I can't, it's just miserable, all the while, like, the flood of emotions are coming back, this and that, and, like, so when family night came, or family visit time came, like, 4 days after I got there, my mom walks in the door, and I instantly am all like, oh, I'm so sorry, and I'm giving her a big hug and everything, and she's like, oh my God, are you okay? Are they picking on you? Like, what's happening? Like, what's happening? Like, are you okay? Do we need to get you out now? And I was like, I love you, I'm so sorry. She's like, it'll be okay, just stay here. And, I put up with whatever I needed to get through that, man. The first time that I heard a message, let me backtrack just a smidgen before I got clean. Like 2 years prior to me getting clean, I have to say this because this guy's important in my life. I had to go to meetings, and I actually came to NA meetings. I was the guy that showed up to your meeting late, left early, stamped the paper 7 times, was high, got high, sold drugs in the parking lot. I was that guy. There's someone in the back of the room that remembers me sitting there nodding off, doing crossword puzzles, paying no attention, And I brought a guy with me that was my buddy. He always sat shotgun with me whenever I was riding around. We were selling dope, doing whatever. Let's just call him John. So John and I would come to meetings and we'd be wasted. The home group that I have right now in Morgantown, Chestnut Ridge, Live Clean or Die, we were up on stage and he almost fell off the stage a couple of times. He almost burned my car down because he was smoking in my car. While I was sitting there, for some reason, I had to wait for the stamp because they had it at the fucking end of the meeting. Why can't you just put it out at the beginning of the meeting so I can get the stamp and get out of here? You want me to hear something? I wasn't ready for it. So we would go to meetings pretty regularly, right before, about a year before I got clean, because his clean date's January 15th of 2012. We were getting really high. He had just had a huge argument and a fight with his girlfriend, now wife, but girlfriend at the time. And he calls me, and I go to pick him up, and I was like, "What's wrong, John?" He's like, "Well, me and we're fighting, and it's bad, dude. It's bad." I was like, "Is it really bad?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, what can I do to help you out?" He's like, "Let's go get some drugs." Okay. So we go visit my drug dealer's house at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Obviously he can't stay there with her, so he came over to my parents' house and crashed with me. We're both loaded. I hadn't slept in like 3 days. He was out of his gourd too, so we both end up crashing. And then I wake up in the morning, and John's not there. And I'm like, where's John? And I went to talk to my mom, and I said, "Mom, where's John?" And she said, "Oh, I gave John a ride home earlier." I said, "Really?" And she said, yeah. He said that, he tried to wake you up to give you a ride, but you wouldn't get up. So, like, he just came up and asked me if I could give him a ride. And I said, sure. And then he was, like, looking for garbage bags. And he was looking in our cabinets for garbage bags. Do you know what was going on with him? I said, I don't know, John. I mean, he might have been okay. I don't know. And then she said, well, I was giving him a ride home, and while we were sitting there in the car, he looks over her and he says, hey, do you mind if I call you Mom? And she said, John, of course not. All of Anant's friends call me Mom. Like, what's going on? What's happening? He said, I think I've got a problem. And she says, okay, what's wrong, honey? What's going on? And he said, I think I need to go to treatment. And she says, okay, well, that's good. If you've got a problem, you should go to treatment. And then he follows that up with, well, I think Anant needs to go to treatment too. This son of a bitch. So she's telling me this story, and I'm just pissed. Like the cat's out of the bag. Like, really? And she's like, do you think you need to go to treatment? I was like, no, John, you saw how he was. He was all messed up. Really? Me? No, Mom. I smoke a little bit of weed. That's it. Like, it's not bad. I still give John shit for this day. I give John shit for this to this day. That night, he was looking for a garbage bag because he wanted to fit a half a bottle of cologne, a Swiss Army knife, an empty candle, an air freshener, and I think $85. He stole that from me that night. Why he needed those things, I don't know. So John gets clean a year before I do, and I remember him telling me that he was going to treatment, and I was like, okay, man, well, we'll stay in touch. We definitely will. He's like, yeah, absolutely, bro. I'll call you when I get out. So he's gone for his 28 days, and then afterwards, like, I'm like, all right, it's been 30, 32 days. Why the fuck hasn't he called me? Like, let me try to call him. And I go to call him, and the phone number's been disconnected. And I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? Is he okay? What's happened? And I didn't hear from him for an entire year. And like, I now know why he did that. It's because he got suggestions from you guys that told him he needs to set up healthy boundaries and change his phone number and not associate with people that he used to use with before. And I didn't think that applied to me, but apparently it did. So John's out of my life. My best friend's out of my life for a year. So fast forward, I'm in treatment, and I've been going to these meetings, and I heard you guys talk about things and addiction, and I was the guy that pointed out the differences versus looking at the similarities. So I would say, like, all right, well, that guy's been to prison. I've never been to prison. I can't be an addict. Or like, that person does drugs that way. I've never done it that way. I'm not an addict. Or like, that person's done that drug. I've never done that one. Can't be an addict, Or I come from a good family. I've got a college degree. I can't be an addict, And that's the guy that I was for a good while, But I'll never forget it. I was in treatment, and this group from the area that I was at the treatment facility in, this guy came in, and he shared his story. And it's this like 6'4" dude, like big beard, bunch of tattoos. He might have had a couple on his neck, and right off the rip, I'm like, I got nothing in common with this guy. What am I going to get out of this? And he shared some stories and he shared some stuff. And, that was the first time that I thought, I get that. That makes sense. Me too. Like, maybe I have a problem, And, while I was there in treatment, I skirted away from even calling myself an addict, because that word had so much power, and I did not truly believe that I was an addict. So after he shared his story, I went up to him afterwards and I said, "Hey man, thank you so much for coming in here, sharing your story. That was amazing. I can relate to that. What should I do?" He said, "You should go to a meeting your first night out. Tell them you're new. Sit back and let it happen." I said, "Let what happen?" He said, "You'll see." I said, "Okay, well, I can do that." So I stayed there in treatment. We had all the therapy classes. They keep you pretty busy there. You don't get a chance to really like hang out or do whatever. And the beautiful thing too was like my mom was big on the family therapy sessions and the one-on-one sessions, and she came pretty regularly, and she had a person that like a therapist there that she talked to, and they explained to her how important it was to move out of the environment that you were in, to cut off people, places, and things, to have a healthy environment, to make sure you go to a meeting your first night out. So while I was there in treatment, my parents made the decision to move me out of the apartment that I had with my best friend who I was using with at that time, and moved me back to their house. She went through all the things that I had, and you can ask these guys. I'm like a hoarder, so like I had like paraphernalia from years ago, like, it just sitting around everywhere. This guy up here too, apparently. I just kept everything. So, I remember when she told me that she had gone through my place and cleaned up everything, I remember thinking like, oh my God, like, wow, But, she didn't get mad as much as she understood that the reason that was happening, is to try to help her son, stay away from all this stuff. So she moved me back in with them. So here I am at the age of 30, moving back in with my parents coming out of treatment. My dad picked me up from treatment on the day I was ready to go. It was a Friday. He picked me up from treatment, drove me back home to Morgantown. I get home, my mom gives me a big hug. She's excited to see me. I'd gotten a dog when I was in active addiction, and I was a shitty pet owner, but he was happy to see me for some reason. And he was on my 8th step and my 9th step. Telling you, I love that guy to death. And so, like, I get back home, and, my mom's like, "I'm so happy to see you. How do you feel?" I said, "I feel great. I feel awesome." She says, "Do you know what time the meeting is tonight?" I said, "Absolutely. It's at 7:30. It's on Green Street." "Do you know where that is?" "Yeah, that's in South Park." "Do you know how to get there?" "Yeah, I absolutely do." She said, "We're going, right?" And I said, "Yeah, we're going, definitely." And then she followed that up with, like, "What do you want to eat? What do you want me to make you?" And she did the motherly, nurturing, pampering kind of a thing. So she made me my favorite meal. And I got a chance to lay there on the couch and, like, watch TV and pet my dog, do all the things I wasn't able to do for the last 20-something days. And 3 hours before the meeting started, she said, "Hey, we're still going to the meeting, right?" And I said, yeah, absolutely. 7:30 Green Street, we're going." "Yes, Mom, we're going there." Hour before the meeting, "We're still going, right?" And I said, "Yeah, we're going, Mom. We're going. Okay. 15 minutes before the meeting, "Let's go." "You know what, Mom? I just got out of treatment. It's been a rough couple of weeks. Like, I'm enjoying this time here. There's stuff on TV I need to catch up on. My dog hasn't seen me in 20-something days. Like, I'll go tomorrow." And bless her heart, she said, "To hell with that." She grabbed me, threw me into the car, and drove me to Green Street. So here I am, showing up to Green Street 5 minutes late. My mom is giving me a ride to the meeting. Everyone's inside, and I walk in there, and obviously everyone's seated there. And I love the fact that recovery is growing all over the state. I absolutely do. Back whenever that was happening, it was February 22nd at 13. There was like 15 people there. And back in Morgantown, that was a big meeting. 15 people, 20 people, holy crap. Like, it's packed. Now an average meeting is 40, 50, 60 people, and that's awesome. So I'm sitting there at the meeting, and the meeting's got like an L-shaped kind of a table. And of course, everyone's sitting on the outside. And I'm the asshole that like walks in and like kind of sits there, and everyone's like around me and behind me and everything like that. And I show up late, and I'm dressed not like a professional businessman. This time I'm wearing like big baggy hoodie and big sweatpants, and I'm looking all awkward, and I haven't had a haircut in like 4 weeks, so I'm looking rough, And I sit down there, and they're doing the initial readings, which I'd heard at that point. I thought they were pretty cool. They got to key tags, and they told me, even though it's not your first day being clean, when you get out, go to a meeting and pick up a white key tag. That's just to symbolize that you're new to the program, So they did the white key tag thing, and I picked up a white key tag, and they applauded, and then they walked over to come like give me a hug, and I thought I was being accosted, and they were gonna like, it was so weird. And there were dudes coming up to me and giving me a hug and whispering in my ear saying, "Keep coming back." I didn't know what to think. I was like, they said I should go to a meeting, I guess is what, I don't know. And then they opened it up to, the sharing portion. And I was the first person to share. And I said, I'm an addict named Anant. And I just got out of treatment. I've been to these meetings before, but I never paid attention. I don't know what this is about, but I just need help. And that was it. I did what that guy at treatment told me to do, that guy that came from H&I. And the first guy, I'll never forget him, John A., he was sitting right in front of me. He was the first person to open up, and he said, I'm an addict named John. You're right where you need to be. Keep coming back. It gets better. That was the first time that I actually felt it. I felt like things could get better. And while I was there at the meeting, I love her to death. But one of these ladies that I worked with when I was at Teletech, she was texting someone about my presence being there. And I don't do it. I don't promote it. I don't think it's right. But in this situation, I'm so freaking grateful that she did it. So this lady that was at the meeting, she was texting my buddy John. She said, "You will not believe who's at a meeting." And I didn't know this was happening until after the fact. But whenever the meeting was over, and I was getting phone numbers, and I open up that door, there's John standing there. And said, "What are you doing, man?" And he said, "Dude, I was on my way to go play poker with the rest of the guys. But then I got a text, and someone said that you were at a meeting. So I decided to come back. If he wouldn't have showed up at that meeting, I probably wouldn't still be clean. I'm so fucking grateful for that, man." So I'm sitting there talking to John, and I said, "So you've been coming around for a while?" He goes, "Yeah, dude, I've got like over a year clean." I said, "Really? Oh, okay, that's pretty cool." And like while I'm sitting there interacting with him, I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, this son of a bitch has been here for a year, and he stayed clean. If he can do it. Because I know how bad off he was. So what did I start doing, though? I started emulating everything that guy did. He went to a meeting every single night. I went every single night. I did not have a driver's license. That was taken away. I did not have a vehicle. I wasn't able to hold on to one of those. I didn't have any money. But this guy would come and pick me up, or my mom would give me a ride to a meeting every freaking night. And I started talking to him, and he started introducing me to the people in the rooms, and said, this guy's new, but I've known him for years. He's a great guy. And I started getting plugged in and get connected. I'll never forget the first time we were walking through the mountain layer, and he said, "Hey, do you want to grab a bite to eat? We're a little bit early for the meeting." I was like, "Oh, dude, I don't have any money, man. I'm sorry." He goes, "Don't worry about it." I said, wait, what? He said, don't worry about it. I said, what do you mean? I can pay you back, dude. I got you. He's like, don't worry about it, man. Just pay it forwards, you know? And that stuck with me. And that was the first time that I'd interacted with someone in well over a decade that didn't want something in return, you know? They were just doing it because someone else did it for them. And that meant a lot to me. So for that first year of recovery, and like for the first, God, I went to so many meetings. I didn't have anything to do, you know? I really didn't. It was like, all right, wake up in the morning, eat something, take a nap, see what's on TV, take a nap, see what's on TV, take a nap, scroll through Facebook, be bored. All right, it's 6 o'clock. I can start getting ready for the meeting. Let's go to the meeting. Let's hang out. And I'm so grateful for early recovery and the young people that were in our rooms when I first came around, because they wanted to hang out until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and watch TV or do karaoke or whatever the hell else that we do when we first came around. And I was like, whatever, sure, yeah, absolutely. You know, because I thought that I would get clean and I wouldn't get a chance to have any fun. You know, I really thought that. It was like, all right, you go to a meeting for an hour, and then you go home, and you sit in a rocking chair until the next day, and you're rocking back and forth, and you're kind of like humming to yourself, and you're just like white knuckling it and praying that you made it to 7:30 the next day. But there's all the other 23 hours, and like these people wanted to hang out and grab coffee and fellowship and do all kinds of stuff, man. Then, because I had to literally replace everyone that I was hanging out with before. You know, by the end of it, anyone that was decent in my life that wanted something good from me, I pushed them away because I didn't want them to see what kind of a piece of shit I became. So by the end of it, I was just hanging out with people that were using. That was it. You guys told me to change people, places, and things. I had to change everyone. And I had a new family here in Narcotics Anonymous, and I'm grateful for that, you know. So, you know, what do I do like any good addict does? I come into the rooms in Narcotics Anonymous, find a girl that, you know, is kind of cute. And she thought I was kind of cute too. So like within 8 days of being in the rooms, I got a girlfriend. She might have been a little bit younger than me, but you know, hey. I didn't know any better. You know. I didn't understand that this disease was so much more than just the using of drugs. You know, it's so much more than that. You know, I had a void. I very much did have a void, and like I didn't know what to fill it with. You know, I was hanging out with you guys, sure, but like there was this other girl, and like it was the first time that like I didn't have any drugs in my body, and she didn't want anything from me aside from, well, and you know. So we started dating and hanging out, and like that lasted for like a year on and off, you know. And early on though, like John had gotten a sponsor whenever he first came around, so I found myself a sponsor too. You know, it was this guy named Joey, Joey F. from Huntington. Is he here now? Yo! Huntington/Wayne/Morgantown. Now he's Morgantown, he's ours. And it was awkward asking him to be my sponsor. It was after Bugaboos when it was at the old location, and it's dark. And I walk up to him all weird, like looking down, trying not to make eye contact with him. And I felt like I was asking him out to prom, and, you know. I was like, do you like want to be my sponsor? And he's like, well, let's talk about that. I was like, oh shit, okay. I mean, everyone's got I didn't know what a sponsor was. I just knew that like people had them. I didn't know what they meant, what they meant to somebody, what their role was. I knew nothing, you know. So he's like, well, yeah, let's talk about it. He gave me the sponsorship pamphlet, and I read it. And he asked me the next day, like, what I thought of it and what I wanted out of a sponsor. You know, I told him I wanted someone to guide me through the steps. I wanted someone to hold me accountable. I wanted someone that I can open up to and talk to about things. He said, for me, the solution to everything is in the steps. Are you willing to work steps? And I said, yes. He said, all right, let's do it, you know. So he gave me my first assignment, you know, to write on the symbol, which I wrote about, you know, and I love the symbol, everything of it. I wrote about it. We shared it at Blue Moose. And then afterwards, he got me onto my first step, experience, strength, and hope, calling people, doing it in meetings, everything like that. I got the preliminary stuff done and taken care of. And all the while, I'm still dating this girl, and we're talking and everything. And now Joey's asking me every once in a while, he's like, hey, how's that first step coming along? I was like, oh, dude, I'm like halfway through it. Like, it's going great, you know. It's like, all right, dog, let me know. let me know when you get done. I was like, okay, that's cool, I can do that. A couple weeks later, he's like, so you close to being done? I was like, oh, I'm really close, man, really close. I'm close. And then about like 2 months later, me and this girl broke up for the first time, and we break up for the first time, and I'm calling Joey, and I was like, Joey, what do I do? We're not together anymore. What do I do with myself? How do I live? Whatever. He's like, how's that first step? And I was like, I'm in pain, and you're asking me about step work. Don't you get it? What the hell, But he was like, why don't you try writing on that step? You said you're halfway through it, right? And I was like, He's like, how much have you written? I was like 4 questions. He's like, it's okay, get through that step. Let's get into some step work, man. And I put pen to paper because I didn't have anything else going on. I didn't have another distraction. I didn't have someone else. I was fully focused on that step work. Knocked through that step work in the first, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks. I ran through that step with a lot of thought, and a lot of it behind it because I'd had evidence of unmanageability in my life being clean, in a new relationship. We got together, we shared that first step. It took about 3 hours at Qdoba. Loved it, and he told me, here's what you need to do to get into step 2. So I, do the preliminary stuff, get into step 2, knock that out, and then we're ready to get into step 3, and lo and behold, I get a call from her. So it's, well, I've got some steps under my belt now. I can deal with this. Let's give it a shot, see how it goes. So we get back into another relationship, and at this point, I'd somehow managed to finish my 3rd step, and I'm getting into my 4th step. And that didn't last. About when I had a year clean, actually, it was, it was Valentine's Day, I think it was. Oh, wow, that's when we broke up. Whoops. It was just, it just wasn't working out. I realized that this wasn't going to be anything more than what it just was. This wasn't going anywhere, and I really needed to focus on my recovery. And being in a relationship does not allow me to focus on my recovery yet, and sometimes today, because I can take something that could potentially be healthy and make it unhealthy very quickly. She became my higher power. I was happy or sad depending on how our relationship was going. I didn't need that, So I get into my 4th step with Joey, and at this point I'd started working at another customer service place in Fairmont. First Energy, I was working there. Early on in recovery, I was grateful because my parents took care of some things for me. I remember calling Joey and John and being like, dude, I need to get a job, right now. And they're like, why? I was like, I need to get a job. I need to. That's what we do, productive members of society. I need to get a job right now. And they're like, why? I was like, dude, I need a job. And they're like, do you have any bills to pay right now? No. Do you have to pay rent right now? No. Do you have a car payment? Do you have even a license? No. I was like, Jesus, dude, kick me when I'm down. But they're like, why don't you just work on staying clean, and then we'll deal with that when we get down there. So November rolls around in 2013, and I started working for First Energy, and I do well there. I'm still able to go to meetings. I didn't miss a meeting for my first about year and 2 months. I went to a meeting every single night. Because that's what was ingrained in me. It got to the point where if it was 7:30 at night and I wasn't at a meeting, it was uncomfortable. So I'm working at this place, First Energy, and the day comes for me to get promoted to be full-time there. And I told them about my background. I let them know everything that was on there. I didn't leave anything out, and they said they would look and evaluate everything. And the day comes for my promotion, and they call me in the office, and they fire me on the spot. And I was just crushed. I was. It was my past haunting me yet again, and I just felt shitty about it. I remember calling Joey and telling him dude, I just got fired. He said, what? I thought you were supposed to get promoted today. I was like, no, I got fired. He goes, bro, what's today? I was like, it's Friday. He goes, no, it's convention Friday. Let's go to convention. Let's deal with this on Monday. I said, okay. So I came down to convention, and I haven't missed a convention, by the way, since I've been clean. I've been to 13 conventions, and I intend on still doing that after I move away because this place is special to me. So we went to convention, and I was down, and I came back, and Joey, bless his heart, he was my sponsor in the beginning, but now he's one of my closest best friends. He said, you've got nothing to do right now, right? Why don't you come down with me? Let's go to Wayne, and you can go there and go hunting, and or you can go fishing, and maybe you can shoot a gun. We can go kayaking, and I wanted to be like, dude, look at me. I don't do those things. I'm a city boy. Like, what are you talking about? But I was like, whatever. I got 3 days. Sure, let's go down there. So I went down there, and I got to visit him, his family, meet his mom, enjoy my time down there, and have some more fun in recovery. I came back and I told my parents about what happened, and my dad was pissed. He said, yet again, your background and your past is coming to haunt you. It'll always stay with you. It's never going to go away. He was just disappointed. My mom said, let's stay positive. Maybe something will come about. We'll see what happens. So I started, one of my buddies that I'd known since I was in high school. We played tennis and we played other sports together. I knew him. He was starting up a sober living residential facility in Morgantown. And I'd known him for a while, and he said, hey, would you like to come be our house manager? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I could do that. Sure, yeah, I could be your house manager. So I was doing that, something to do. I enjoyed it and got a little bit of money on the side. That was cool. But like any good addict, what did I also start doing? Like I started talking to this other girl, and that one was unhealthy, to say the least. Apparently, you're not supposed to move your girlfriend into a men's sober living house. Yeah, exactly. I was in charge. I figured I could do what I wanted to do, and it'd be okay. But it wasn't. It wasn't at all. I actually got fired from that position for obvious reasons. And I remember being pissed about it and not knowing what to do. And I was distraught. And now at this point, I'm full on dating this girl. She is the end all be all in my eyes. I think that she's the one. Bear in mind that all my friends in recovery are like, dude, she's getting high. And I'm like, no, she's not. They're like, yeah, she is. No, she's not. Dude, look at her. She is getting high. You don't look that thin like that all the time, like she's getting high. And I didn't believe it. I couldn't, this disease is powerful. I thought she was the one. I was full on obsessed with her. She was the one for me. I stayed in that relationship for way longer than it needed to be. In November of that year, in 2014, my buddy Doug, he got a hold of me and he said, hey, I've got a buddy in Rotary of mine, and he owns an insurance agency here in Morgantown. I think that you'd be a good fit for that. He thinks you'd be a good fit too. And I remember thinking to myself, like, really? Insurance? Really? That's like a step above a used car salesperson. Like, really? No offense for any used car salespeople here. But like, I said, whatever, I'll go ahead and check it out. And I went in there, and I interviewed, and he hired me on the spot. But he never sold me on the job. He sold me on, one day, having my own office or something like that. And I thought that was pretty cool. He gave me a chance, which I thought was awesome. He asked me if there's anything in my background. I told him that there was. I disclosed everything, and the company that I worked for, they didn't want me to be a part there, but he fought for me, and I'm so freaking grateful for that. And I'm dating this girl still, and at this point I've accumulated some money, started working there. I bought a house. She moved in with me. And, things were going okay. They were going okay. I'd started playing softball with the softball teams in Morgantown. One day I went to pick her up for a softball game, and the door was locked in my house. And then I ended up getting there, and I find out that she was getting high the whole time, and all the drugs were right there in front of her. And I needed to do something about it, so I called my friends in recovery, and we ended up having to kick her out. And that was sad for me, because I was used to being with her the whole time. She was the one for me. I thought that was the case. Turned out to not be the case. So at this point, I'm distraught, and I don't know what to do with myself. I have no one around me. I feel all alone. I call my sponsor yet again, and I call my buddies in recovery, and they show up there because that's what they do. They hung out with me. Eric and Joey and Dan and other people like that come to my house and hang out with me. Want to see if I'm doing okay, invite me to come do things. Because that's what we do in recovery. We help each other through this tough stuff. So fast forward a little bit, I'm still working for that insurance company. I'm still managing to go to recovery and being in meetings. I'm still going to meetings every day. I've got a sponsor and a home group, and I'm working steps, and I'm changing, and that's pretty awesome. I've been through some tough things in recovery as well. My grandma passed away while I was in recovery, and I remember calling my sponsor and my buddies and telling them about that. And I'll never forget, I'm at my grandma's funeral, and I see 5 of them walk in the back of the room, not because they knew my grandma, but because they knew me, and they knew how difficult and painful that would be for me, and that blew me away. Kind of like Ryan was talking about, gifts of recovery that we talk about nowadays. I have since moved on with the company that I was working with. I'm now opening up my own insurance agency in North Carolina. And then one of the first people I told about this was my sponsor, and I told him, Joey, this is what's happening. He said, dude, that's awesome. That's great. I was like, bro, I'm going to get down there, and I'm going to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, and I'm going to get in the middle of this, and that's what I'm going to do. And he says, whoa, dude. You're not the same guy that came around that was sleeping on his mom's couch. You got a little bit more steps and a little bit more tools under your belt. Just get to a meeting your first night out, and we'll deal with everything after that. Get plugged in and get connected, which is what I plan on doing. Through this program and through the recovery that's been brought to my life from you guys, I'm able to take and do things that I've never been able to do before. I used to not be able to leave like a 30-minute radius from my house because I didn't know where any drugs were. Now I can drive 2.5 hours to Ripley, 5.5 hours to Winston-Salem, and move away. I'm sad that I'm leaving Morgantown, and leaving the region and the area, sure, but I'm not that far away, And NA is everywhere. That's a pretty cool thing. I've been to meetings elsewhere. It's the same message, just different words, different people. I'm grateful for that. Is that the timer? I think that's the timer. One thing I do want to talk about before I get off the stage is, how important service work is. There's a guy of mine that I look up to very much, Ryan, who wasn't able to make it to this convention. He wanted to come because he heard I was speaking, but him and his wife they just had a kid, and that's pretty freaking cool. But whenever I heard his lead, and he talked about service and how important it was for recovery, and he used to say, like, if you ain't got time for service, fuck you. I believe that. But I tell other people kind of like something different, like service saves lives, and like people think that like, doing service, that means that like you're saving your life. And I truly believe that too. I'm sorry, you believe that you're saving other people's lives, because you're carrying the message to someone else, like maybe someone in treatment or H&I or wherever might be the case, they'll hear a message and like they'll stay clean and they'll live. But through the years of doing service, I've realized that like doing that has saved my life. There have been so many times when I didn't want to go interact with people. I didn't want to go to a meeting. I didn't want to talk to people, but through service commitments and other things like that, I talked to people and I stayed clean. So if you don't have a service commitment, you should probably get one. It gives you some accountability, makes you feel a part of, and that's what this whole recovery thing's about. So I am grateful to be here. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have fun at this dance. That's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.